You just said right now you don't care.
You can look at all my
How is it now? Let me explain how
What does
it's.
this have to do with misinformation?
I'm going to explain how it's misinformation.
Okay.
Because don't you think that if you make claims like Donald Trump is un-American, Donald Trump doesn't like the Constitution, and then you have an assassin come, he tries to kill Donald J. Trump at a rally, another American dies. Aren't you spreading misinformation by saying to people, this is okay? Isn't that un-American?
I don't think I've ever said this is okay. I've said over and over again that there shouldn't be any political violence in the United States. It's not good. You can laugh. You guys are the ones that
Donald
support
Trump
it.
said that on January 6th.
In this one, we're going to have a look at a debate between Andrew Wilson and scraggly-haired jabberjaw Woke Destiny. And we're going to find out how Destiny reacts when Andrew Wilson presses Destiny on definitions of fascism and authoritarianism. And as Andrew Wilson presses Destiny on his definitions of fascism and authoritarianism, he turns Destiny's own definitions against him, particularly in relation to Trump's control over the military, and despite Destiny's attempts to counter, Wilson undeniably gets the upper hand. So let's have a look at this heated debate between Andrew Wilson and woke scraggly-haired jabberjaw Destiny.
Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Destiny. Destiny, can you define fascism?
I would say the two big points for fascism would be ultranationalism and authoritarianism.
Okay, what is authoritarianism?
I would say that authoritarianism is trying to centralize as much power in like a structural sense into one part of the government, and then in a broader sense, it usually means undermining a bunch of liberal values that you would find, like, say, in the first.
So then how is it that every part of the government which accrues more and more power to itself every single year aren't a bunch of fascists?
Because the government gaining power doesn't necessarily make it fascist. You could say there might be governmental overreach.
I'm
but
still not even sure. What is fascist here, Destiny? What is fascist? So Giovanni Gentili, we have definitions of what fascism is. We have third partyists who are out there right now who are fascist. They claim Trump is a populist. Can you tell me why they're wrong and why you're right that he's a fascist?
Well, I would have to know their exact reasons for why they reject Trump being a fascist, but I would say that Trump is a fascist because I think he's an ultranationalist and an authoritarian.
These are your claims.
I'm not claiming anything that those people said. I've given you my definition for fascist. I gave the two parts. I can explain them if you want.
So let's start with ultra-authoritarian.
Well, I said ultranationalist and authoritarian.
What is ultranationalism?
So I think ultranationalism is when you engage in a hardcore protectionist ideology that usually involves shutting yourself out from the rest of the world. That could be in forms of international affairs like military conflicts, and it could be in the forms of ultra-protectionist in terms of trade and shutting down things like immigration in order to protect your own native peoples. So, oftentimes there's a heavily racialized element, but it might not have to be.
Okay, well, Donald Trump, you're not saying has a heavy racialized element, are you?
I'm ambivalent. I don't really care that much. I think that he qualifies or satisfies the term without that. But
okay, so let's dive into this real quick.
Real quick, if you enjoy content like this, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
If you have a president who doesn't want to get involved in foreign affairs as far as wars go and has some type of policies which benefit the United States over all of the nations, is he a fascist?
No.
Well, I'm still confused as to what makes Trump a fascist.
That's because I had two parts of that, and you missed the authoritarian one. What you described there before was just like protection.
Well, when you said authoritarian, what is he doing, which is accumulating all power to himself?
So he's trying to centralize power in the executive branch of the government, and specifically in the presidential part of the government, of the executive branch.
How?
How Donald Trump thinks that he should be able to unilaterally make decisions up and down all of the different departments and offices that exist in the executive branch.
Presidents use executive orders all the time.
That's not what an executive order is.
Presidents unilaterally make decisions all the time.
No, they don't?
Yes, they do.
No, they
do. They use executive orders all the time.
An executive order doesn't mean that you are taking power away from the departments and offices that have been created.
Right, so where's the fascism here?
Would you like me to give you specific examples?
Yes, give me the specific example.
Sure. So when Donald Trump didn't like the answer that he was getting from his attorney general because he was trying to direct the Department of Justice to do investigations or to fabricate claims, that would be an example of trying to centralize power just to the president, because he's undermining his own department that's been created for him, that's supposed to have some level of independence, that's tasked with doing investigations.
Let me ask you a question. Is the president of the United States the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States?
I believe so.
You believe so?
Unless something's changed.
Do they have control of the entire military apparatus, essentially, as the commander-in-chief?
As the commander-in-chief, yes.
Yeah. Is that fascist?
No.
So they have basically almost unilateral control by your own metrics of the most mighty military on planet Earth. That's not accumulating enough power, centralized control to one person. It's the fact that he tried to slay some fucking electors. Really?
So the president being the commander-in-chief is specifically laid out in the Constitution. That's an authority granted to him. I don't know what's fascist about that.
Well, because you said it's ultra power. It's this idea of having central power.
Military,
if you have the central power,
I didn't ever bring that up for him. But
if you have the central power of the most mighty military on planet Earth and the codes to the largest nuclear armament on planet Earth, you already have all of the central power, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
How do the nuclear codes help you direct your Department of Justice?
Okay, I'm sorry. Is he the commander-in-chief of the United States Armed Forces?
Are you just arguing that he's the commander? I already agree with you. I don't know why you keep arguing.
What I'm arguing to you is
I'm asking you, how does the commander-in-chief use the military
to
make...
It's your claim.
I can ask whatever you want.
About your claim, and your claim is...
How does that make him control the DOJ? How does the military help him control the DOJ?
So, back up. That is the most powerful position I can think of for you to be in, period. How could you
That's a powerful position. That's a powerful...
What more accumulation of power would you want for a fascist dictator?
Gotcha. Okay, so that's powerful in that you control the military. That's it. That's just control of the military. For the FBI coming to your house to arrest you, for the DOJ filing charges against you.
You said the military to do it.
So one thing I'd like to point out is that Andrew Wilson laid this out plain and simple for Destiny to understand that, look, if you command the most powerful military on planet Earth and you have access to use and authority to use the nuclear codes, you have pretty much absolute power. One thing that I would add, though, is that Donald Trump in his first 4 years, he was very restrained, in my opinion. It was the Democrats on the left who were calling for Donald Trump to, send the National Guard into the Chaz Chop. It was the Democrats who basically were calling for a dictator, and at the same time calling Trump a fascist. But then Trump was actually doing the opposite. He was allowing the states to function under their own authority, and he restrained from sending in any type of federal, military or anything into these states. So I find it ironic that the Democrats basically call for a king. In my opinion, the Democrats want a king to rule federally over all the states, but they want that king to serve their purpose, their agenda. They want that king to order, abortions be legal no matter what in all the states. They don't want the states to have any type of, ability to stand alone as they should in a republic. The Democrats also like to say that Trump is a threat to our democracy. Well, their democracy is what I just explained. They want a king to rule with an iron hand over all the states, whereas we are actually a constitutional republic operated by individual states that band together with respect to the federal government and some of these federal laws. So now let's move on to the next part, where Andrew Wilson and Destiny debate whether or not the MAGA movement would even exist if it weren't for disinformation.
So you talk about misinformation, but you've given us a ton of misinformation right now. You said, seems like nobody in MAGA even wants to talk about any of the issues of Donald Trump. Had multiple debaters come up, talk to you about multiple economic policies, compare and contrast them with Kamala, gave you great reason.
I don't think I heard any economic policy from Trump when he was in 4 years.
Okay. No, back up. Now you're switching the claim. So what you just claimed is, I don't hear MAGA people talk about this at all.
I don't think I heard any.
That's what you said, and yes, they did. They brought up the capital gains policies. They also brought up tariffs. They brought up the tariff policies. They brought up multiple economic policies. Total misinfo.
Okay.
Total misinfo for you to say they didn't. They absolutely did. Are you disputing that nobody here brought up any policies of Donald?
I think that when you're talking policies from somebody, if the only thing you have are tariffs, it's not really a strong policy foundation.
I'm sorry. Did you use the word any? You don't hear anybody talk about that?
I'm speaking like a human being right now.
Oh, but when Donald Trump speaks like a human being, he's a liar.
Donald Trump doesn't speak like a human being.
Yeah, he's
moron.
Anytime.
I'm sorry, but Donald Trump speaks like an idiot.
So would you say it's misinformation, for instance? Is it misinformation when you say that a firefighter who got murdered at a rally, when you laugh at that and you say that that's totally fine, are you spreading misinformation?
I don't know if I said that's totally fine. I think I said I don't really have any sympathy for
No, you didn't. You laughed about it. You thought it was funny. You didn't give a shit. You were under fire on Twitter for weeks until you finally backed away.
I haven't backed away from any of those statements. You can go find the
You haven't backed away from any of them?
No, not at all.
You don't care that the guy died, right?
People died. Rallies
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, you don't care.
When this side is involved
But you
in
care
some
about
of the most
misinfo?
violent, divisive. Here's a
You
question.
care about misinfo?
Here's a question. That does not do with misinfo. Here's a question.
I'll
wait.
explain how it's
Wait. Do you
misinfo.
disavow any of the rhetoric about Paul Pelosi? Do you disavow any of the rhetoric about Paul Pelosi?
What? Even if I made any outrageous claim possible, has nothing to do with your claim, which
Do you
is what
disavow any
we're
of
talking about. We're
disavow
talking
any
about
of
your
the-
claim.
You don't.
Stop switching.
He doesn't. Of course not.
Stop
He doesn't
switching
acknowledge
the
what happened on
goalposts.
January 6th. He doesn't acknowledge
And
that
you're
people are
filibustering.
turning away
You're
FEMA
filibustering.
right now
Stop
because
spurging.
they're
Stop
convinced that
spurging.
the federal government's going to take their houses.
Stop spurging.
You are, you're just engaging all the time.
in answer
You can say
to
stop
the
spurging over and
question.
over again. I'm not here to
I'm
talk
going
about
to.
my tweets,
Are
but if
you
that's what you really
ever-
want to talk about, you do it. I've
are you
tweeted
going
crazier
to
shit than that, I
acknowledge
promise.
Are you going to acknowledge that you said totally fine? You didn't care. You just said right now you don't
going
care.
fine. You can look at all my
How
tweets.
is it now? Let me explain how
What
it's.
does that have to do with
I'm
misinformation?
going to explain how it's misinformation.
Okay.
Because don't you think that if you make claims like Donald Trump is un-American, Donald Trump doesn't like the Constitution, and then you have an assassin come, he tries to kill Donald J. Trump at a rally, another American dies. Aren't you spreading misinformation by saying to people, this is okay? Isn't that
I don't think
un-American?
I've ever said this is
Isn't
okay.
it
I've said
un-American?
over and over again that there shouldn't be any political violence in the United
That's
States. It's
great.
not good.
That's
you can laugh.
great.
You guys are the ones that
Donald
support
Trump
it.
said that
You
at January
guys deny
6th.
it.
He said it during January 6th.
After he sat and watched it happen for 3
Oh,
hours.
well, after
when
the
he was
guy died,
only
now you're
person-
sorry about your
What-
rhetoric.
Who said I was sorry?
Yeah, you're not
Excuse me.
sorry,
Please stop
exactly.
projecting onto me.
Not
I never said
sorry
I was
at
sorry
all.
about anything.
Yeah, you don't-
I've not said that. Yeah, unlike you, I have a spine over the things that I say, okay? Number one.
okay.
Number two, Donald Trump and your side are the ones that have engaged in divisive rhetoric for years. This idea that saying Donald Trump is un-American when Donald Trump himself says that he would be a day one
Divisive
dictator
rhetoric
and he would
is fine.
suspend the Constitution. I'm sorry,
No,
if the divisive
there's a
rhetoric is
difference between
quoting
divisive
Donald
rhetoric
Trump
and
against you,
assassinating the
that's
guy.
Donald Trump's problem. Maybe he
Your
should
rhetoric
say
has
that are
led to
un-American.
assassination attempts, and one of the guys who died there, you don't even give a shit, and I've said this multiple times. And at the same time, you're like, oh, I love America. What kind of bullshit is this, Destiny?
Unbelievable.
Amazing. And just so you guys know, if you aren't aware at this point, which I'm guessing that most of you are smart enough and plugged in enough to understand that what Andrew Wilson was referring to, who Andrew Wilson was referring to as the firefighter is Corey Compatore, who was a firefighter that was killed in front of his family when the assassin or potential assassin took a shot at Donald Trump, multiple shots at Donald Trump, hitting his ear there in Butler, Pennsylvania. And what happened was Destiny spent the next couple days saying basically, if you go to a MAGA rally, you deserve what happened. And it was very shocking and telling of how these, progressive Democrats feel about people who think differently of them. They're the tolerant left, and they sit there and tell you that we're supposed to be accepting of other people's, lifestyles and this and that. Yet they have no tolerance for a Christian. They have no tolerance for a white person, for the most part. We see it with all of these DEI conversation that has been highlighted ever since, for the most part, since Dylan Mulvaney got his face put on that can over there at Bud Light. And it's even crazier right there that Destiny's still doubling down, tripling down on his comments that he made that day. He told Andrew Wilson to his face in front of everybody that, look, I never went back on my comments. And as it pertains to this whole misinformation, disinformation thing, I'm pretty much right there with Andrew Wilson. I don't know if the MAGA movement would exist, at least to this extent, if it weren't for Trump calling CNN and MSNBC fake news that one day. It really shined a light on how the mainstream media is in the pocket for the Democratic Party. And over the last 8 years, more and more people have woken up to it, even until the point where we've reelected Donald Trump in this 2024 election. And the culture has shifted to where if you're a populist, you are MAGA, essentially. You support Donald Trump to the extent that you can't go any further in the direction that the Democratic Party has led you. And once again, as I've said in my last few videos, the reoccurring theme here is that these woke pundits from the left, they aren't backing down. They're sinking their heels in, and they're doubling and tripling down on these fringe ideologies that caused Donald Trump to win this 2024 election. And I'm here for it because it's just a recipe to get another Republican elected in 2028 and possibly for the Republicans to gain seats in the House and the Senate when the midterms come up in 2 years. So as these people continue to expose themselves as folks that we just can't rub shoulders with, we can't see eye to eye with, and I don't know about you, but I don't see anything that the Democratic Party, the mouthpieces for them in the mainstream media or even on alternate media are doing to change anybody's mind. So anyways, I think I'll go ahead and wrap up there. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with your friends in your group chat. Other than that, I want to thank you for watching to the end, and I'll see you guys in the next video.